Your Fitness Business Podcast Snapshot. What is DISC profiling and what does the acronym stand for? Using DISC profiling for hiring and for the sales process. And finally, selecting the right profiles for the right position. All of that and more coming up in today's episode. You're listening to the fitness industry's leading fitness business podcast for owners and managers. The Fitness Business Podcast provides an educational platform for our listeners worldwide. Our variety of guests are here to share their expert advice, tips, and knowledge with you, our FBP family. This month's interviews are brought to you by Tribe Team Training. Welcome, everyone. It is great to have you back with us for another outstanding episode of the Fitness Business Podcast. I am your host, Dory Nugent, and today's episode is number 331. Our guest is a four-time Australian Olympian, and his name is Bo Hanson. As you can imagine, Bo has had an incredible athletic journey, one of dedication, perseverance, and success. Hence, 3 Olympic bronze medals. Being the founder of Athlete Assessments, Bo has chosen to focus his work on DISC behavioral profiling and has developed the world's only validated and reliable sporting version of DISC profiling for use with coaches, athletes, sports managers, and officials. This sports-specific behavioral awareness tool has consistently helped clients improve their performances both on and off the field. But before we get started, here is a message from our podcast partner, Tribe Team Training.
Are you interested in increasing your center's income and your trainer's income from small group training? Tribe Team Training is the new way to get more members engaged in small group training and paying extra. Click the Tribe Team Training link in the show notes or go to tribeteamtraining.com.au/podcast for your free formula to see how much income you can make from small group training.
Okay, everybody out there listening, let's get started with this week's episode. FBP family, it is my pleasure to welcome 4-time Olympian, 3-time Olympic medalist, and founder of Athlete Assessments, Bo Hanson, to our show. Bo, welcome to the Fitness Business Podcast.
Thank you, Dory. It's a pleasure to be here. So, I'm looking forward to spending a bit of time chatting about all things DISC and everything else.
Yeah, me too. We'll have to see if you can figure out which letter I am.
That's not going to be hard. So, anyway.
Yeah, I think I feel like I've got it like oozing out of me, but we'll
and that's the thing about DISC is that, and I'm not saying, and this is a really important concept, is that just because I understand, what letter of the profile someone may or may not be, it doesn't mean that I know you. And that's really important. We're not trying to be, there's no crystal ball here trying to predict the future for anyone else, or we're pretending that we can do a profile online and find out everything about you. It's not that at all. But in the framework of the model, yes, some people are easier to see their profile in action than others. That's for sure.
All right. Well, today we're going to talk exactly that. We're going to talk about DISC profiling and the benefits of profiling people through personality type indicators. And there are many, should I say. I'm probably most familiar with Myers-Briggs, but you have really educated and accredited yourself with DISC profiling. So I'd like to kind of start off right away with you explaining what DISC is. It's an acronym. If you can kind of break down each letter and talk a little bit about it. So I'm going to hand the mic over to you, Bo.
All right, cool. Thank you. So DISC is what we know as a behavioral tool, and the concept of profiling, it has a lot of positive, and depending upon how it's introduced to you, can have some negative impacts as well. We tend to focus on what it can do to help us, but the comment that I made before is really important, is that just because someone has filled out a survey and they've got a report which describes how they behave, it doesn't mean that we suddenly know everything about you. It's certainly not about that. It's measuring certain dimensions as to what people's behaviors are. In fact, when DISC was first developed, a long, long time ago now, it's the original developer of DISC, he never patented or copyrighted his work, William Moulton Marston, and the fact is that it was further developed and enhanced over all of these years to the point where today it's the most recognized and the most utilized behavioral tool. I've used that word a few times now, behavioral. We're not a personality type profile. It's not Myers-Briggs. Myers-Briggs, when you talk about personality, yeah, you're not going to change your personality. Your personality is fine, and it's probably fine, hopefully fine the way that it is. But your behaviors do change, and that's what he was interested in. And for me, working in a sporting environment where it's dynamic, things can change, we need to constantly adjust, we need to manage ourselves, we play with different types of players, we play against different opposition, or for yourselves with different clients, you will need to adjust your behaviors. You don't have to change who you are, but when you change your behaviors, that's what the essence of building rapport is about. And really, that's what DISC is. It's a way to connect and build a relationship and gain an insight into how to communicate and work effectively with others. That's the outcome of DISC. It's not to improve on your profile or to change your profile. It is learning literally what you like to do, the behaviors you need to adjust, and ultimately how to connect and build better relationships with others. And that's something that sport has sort of started to work out more and more these days, is that it's not just a physical thing. And the same for your clients. Your clients will not turn up purely because they get a physical outcome from your practices and training sessions with you. They will keep coming back because you care about them. And one way to show that you care is the fact that you're able to connect and build rapport and, show that sense of care by the way you adjust yourself to suit their respective needs. And coaches are starting to realize that more and more today as well. Business has known this for a long time now. We have tailored products for everything that we can possibly buy. And, people today demand a tailored approach to the way that they're certainly in your industry coached and, their training programs and what their respective goals are. The alternative is to just do the same thing for everyone, which is just not going to meet the needs. So DISC stands for dominance, influence, steady, and conscientious behaviors. And there's just 4 dimensions there, and you can be preferenced in any one of those 4 or perhaps even 2 or 3 of them, but never all 4. So essentially all it means is this is really simple. So let's say that you turn up to your work today and a new client walks through the door and you're wondering, well, I wonder what their profile is. And they walk in and the first thing they say, right, so you're my trainer. Great. Okay, this is what I want to achieve today. This is my goals. These are my outcomes. This is what sort of session I want to have. Some people are really direct. They tell you exactly what they want, and that's what dominance stands for. They see their practice as an opportunity to achieve their goals, to achieve their results, to make improvements, to get it done. And at the end of the practice, it's a thank you, see you later. They're not hanging around. They're not chatting about any other things. So that's the dominant style, okay? The next one is the interactive style, and you know them because they walk through the door and they're smiling and they can't wait to be there and they love seeing you. And they even use that language, and their practices or their training that day, they don't want to do what they did last time. They want to have some variety. They want to mix it up. They want to try something new. So you as their PT, you basically suggest, hey, I've got a new activity for you today, and you immediately see their eyes light up. Okay, that's the interactive style. The next one is the S's, so they're the steady style. So this type of behavior is known because they walk in, they're a little bit quieter, their energy is a little bit lower than what the I's are. They don't have the intensity of the D's, who are just focused on getting in and getting out, getting their goals achieved. The S's, they're quieter, so they have a quiet conversation. They will absolutely ask how you are. They want to know that you're okay, and they will want you to ask them how they're doing as well. Don't expect a long conversation, but expect that they will continue a conversation in depth on the same topic, whereas an I can often jump from one topic to another. S's want to know what they're doing in that practice, in that session with you, and they want to know that it's pretty much similar to what we did last time. There's no surprises today. I'm not going to spring on them some new activity that we've never done before. And if we are going to do a new activity, they'll want to have a little bit of advanced time on that. So you can say to them, hey, next week we want to try something new and different, but I'm letting you know now so you can prepare yourself for it. And the last one of the C's stands for conscientious. And the C's are the ones who want to be totally organized. You'll know them when they walk through the door because they're ordered, they're neat, everything is in the right place. They will absolutely be ahead of schedule. They will never be late. I'm not saying that all the other profiles will, but they have a tendency to perhaps, but C's never, because they are very, very structured. And when they look at the practice, the training that you've given them, they want to know that it makes sense. They want to know that it's been well thought out. They want to know that you are extremely well organized and that you yourself are running on time. So yeah, there's all 4 different types. And like I said, you can be one of any of those different 4. And that's part of our role as a great coach, is to know what's walking through the door from a profile perspective and to really be aware of what our own profile is as well, because our own profile determines the way that we naturally put together our programs and our interaction for our clients.
Yeah, so I see how coming from a personal trainer or a coach, this could be very, very important. I totally get it as far as, the I is going to be different than the C.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, for all of our managers, owners out there that are hiring staff, how do we take this and implement this so that we're hiring the right team members that are going to get along, they're going to interact well with one another? Because I'm going to assume that you don't want to have a whole team of eyes.
Yeah, that's great. And that's the correct assumption there, Dory. And we've just recruited 3 new people for our business. And in sport, we talk a lot about the importance of the role that you play on the team. And the role is defined by 2 factors. There's your technical role, which is literally maybe you've been recruited to work in memberships. And so what does that mean? It means acquiring new members, reaching out to your existing membership, making sure you can update the database, being well structured in that way. So there's a very specific job description, the same as there is if you're the point guard on a basketball team. So most people get that role concept, but the other critical aspect is what we call the non-technical. And the non-technical is all about the degree to which you're going to contribute beyond just the technical things. So when we looked at the people we recruited, we wanted people that could bring initiative, that could be proactive. We wanted people that were going to bring a sense of energy to the team, who could keep a conversation going with that one of the other persons. We wanted someone who was going to drive standards and attention to detail. So they are non-technical qualities. And when you said before, do we want to recruit a whole team of eyes? Well, if they're a sales team and they've got a network with new people and different people every single day, and that's the core part of their technical role, you know that non-technically they're going to bring the energy and the enthusiasm to want to mix with new people every day. So on a sales team that's defined by that technical role, you do want a lot of eyes. So eyes are fantastic at that. But some people score really low in that quality or that behavior. And as a result, they would massively have to adapt. And so when you have to stretch yourself to do a behavior that's not comfortable for you, it takes an enormous amount of energy. Then your challenge becomes, can you do that every single day? And for a lot of people, that becomes really difficult. And then if we look at other profiles such as the Ds, this is one where, and in any population, there's a certain falling of the D, I, S, and C. But when you get too many Ds in a population, you get too many people that want to play a non-technical role, which is defined by driving standards, holding people accountable, making decisions, telling people what to do. And you end up with a kitchen that is full of chefs cooking their own menu. They're all a great menu, but it's their own menu. And often they don't necessarily want to naturally collaborate with others. Or the S's. The S's are the primary percentage in any population. It can be up to 52%. The S's are your key supporters. They're often defined as your first followers. They're the ones that if you've got an idea, they're saying, how can I help with that? And so the S's love harmony. They love stability. And if it's a normal team where there is a diversity of roles that need to be played, you do want a predominance of S, because, how many different new ideas do you need? How many people do you need telling others what to do? And then the final ones are your C's. Like I said before, we've recruited someone who's got a high C in their profile just recently, purely because we need them to be good with structure and systems. And we need them to be able to contribute to the team in that way by being well organized, by being able to keep everyone to account to the details and to follow that level of technical excellence. So that's what we call team dynamics. And as a leader, you really do need to understand what that dynamic on your team looks like. And especially if you get the choice to choose. Like we work with some coaches that just have to coach who turns up. But it can still be useful then because you can start to educate people where they're at within this model and what adaptations they need to make for the benefit of the team. And that becomes a key concept whenever we work with leaders, is trying to help them understand, well, your role is to help your team understand, well, what's the team trying to achieve here? And what behaviors do we all need to contribute in order for the team to get the best possible outcome? In the same way that one-on-one with a client, you adapt because you're trying to meet the needs of that client so they can get the best possible results for themselves.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Should we, or how do we train our staff to work well with the different type of behaviors? So if you're a D, you might struggle maybe a little bit with the I that's more worried about, saying hi to everybody, and the D probably feels like the I is not uber focused. How do you train your staff to all right, guys, listen, no right or wrong here, but we've got to learn to work together?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, and a couple of things there, you're right. So Ds will become frustrated with Is that like to say hello to everyone. And the D is thinking, let's just get to work. We need to get this task completed. But the reality is saying hello to everyone, that might be really, really important. I mean, honestly, in a fitness facility, personal connections, a lot of people come because it's a social opportunity. The D percentage is only about 9%. So the reality is that most people are there because they like to work out with others and they like to be in a friendly environment to do that. So part of your role as a leader is to clearly define exactly what behaviors your business most values. And if making a connection, being friendly, being enthusiastic, because let's face it, whilst we like to work out with other people, the reality is that sometimes we may not be looking forward to working out, exercising hard. So, the more that we can make it fun and entertaining and interesting, the more people are likely to come back day after day after day, which is the challenge in fitness, right? It's just about consistency of turning up. So we have a really mature conversation about what behaviors are most critical in order to benefit our business. But that's the awareness point where a manager is able to have a conversation and say, hey, you realize you've got D in your profile, and where that's helpful for us is here, but where it's not so helpful is showing your frustration towards an I who's connecting with people. And by the same token, when an I needs to get to work and really tune in and focus their attention or be a little more structured in their role, then that's the adaptation that they have to make. Mm-hmm. And so all of us have to adapt for the benefit of the environment that we find ourselves in. But having a mature and a self-aware conversation about that, that's the benefit of doing this whole profile.
And Bo, do you give everybody that you hire or potentially you're going to hire, do you make every single person take the test?
Yeah, and it's not a test so much.
Yeah, it's not a test.
You know what I mean? But it's part of the recruitment process. They would be more nervous about their first interview with our staff, or they would be more nervous about sitting down with, myself and my wife as the CEO of the business about, will I not get the job? Taking the actual profile is a pretty simple thing for them to do, especially when we frame it up in terms of there are no right or wrong answers, and we've written a job description, which we know is going to attract a certain profile. And we want to make sure that whoever works for us, we are putting a round peg into a round hole. It's as simple as that. We've had experience before of where we've tried to fit, a round peg into, a triangular, fitting. And it's really difficult. Even if they're really high quality people, we're forcing them to make behavioral adaptations that are so far outside of their natural range that it becomes stressful for them. And that's not a fun place for anyone to work.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they do their profile. And then when they start here, we share our profiles with them as well so that they've got a really mature understanding of what we're all looking for and how we like to work. And that's the basis for having a really effective team chemistry.
It's funny, I went on your website and I answered the questions to find out which letter that I was.
Yeah.
And after I took I don't again, what do you call it? It's not really a quiz or a test.
It's the survey, right?
A survey. Okay.
Behavioral survey, yeah. Yeah.
So I went to work and I just kind of was like, okay, this person's a D, this person.
Yeah, you can do that.
It's funny. I feel like you get to the point you can kind of just, if you're mindful of it, you can tell if you know the person well enough, you kind of can figure it out.
Yeah, you can. And that's what I mean. It's very intuitive. And that's the key thing about behavior is you can see it. You can observe it. You can't deny the behavior is that you're smiling and you're talking enthusiastically. There's pretty good chance you're going to have a fair bit of eye in your profile, and as a result of that, it should give whoever, like if you've noticed that, then it goes, okay, well, what do I need to do in order to adapt, in order to build a quality relationship or have us feel like there's some connection so that this can be a quality conversation. And, most people make those what we call momentary adaptations pretty naturally. That's building rapport. And to be able to build rapport with someone, 100%, you need to be able to adapt. And the secret to making an adaptation is being willing to do so. And I would guarantee that some of your listeners out there on this podcast, they would have had the experience of acquiring a new client and not liking them at all and realizing that, I just don't want to adapt, and so you're faced with the challenge of, okay, perhaps that's not the right client for you or you're not the right trainer for them. And some of the adaptations that we make stretch us to a point where, like a rubber band, if you stretch the rubber band too far, it starts to fray at the edges and then ultimately it breaks. People do that all the time. People choose career paths where they're not well suited behaviorally, but it pays really well. Then you got a conflict where you need to make a choice. Okay, do I value the money or do I value how I feel about my workplace? Or you're working in a team where you love the job in terms of the technical role, but the culture of the workplace is not suitable for you. Understanding what you need is a massive piece of the equation. And when you know yourself better, you can just make better choices, and that's a big part of evolving.
And do you find that whether it's in teams or, like you said, a client-trainer relationship, the D's gravitate towards the D's and the I's gravitate towards the I's, even in a marriage or a friendship?
I would think that it's a bit of everything, to be honest. In all of my experience, I haven't seen that people have been so conscious about the choices that they've made, and that they found things that work, though. For example, it's not unusual to see a D have a really successful relationship with an S, because a D likes to give direction and S's like to be able to support and follow. It's a way that they feel a sense of value and contribution to a relationship or a team. It's not unusual to see two I's hanging out together because they feed off each other's energy. But everything to a point. Some combinations are far more successful than others. Two Ds can be enormously productive for a short period of time, but over a space of time, there's always going to be a challenge around. You see this in politics and leadership all the time around, well, who is in charge? And is there a formal authority and hierarchy here? And if there is, then it should be me, except you think the same thing. So, you know what? It's probably not going to work long term, but we both really value getting a phenomenal result, kicking off this business, making a lot of money, winning new clients, whatever it is. And then we both go our separate ways. And that can be great. We see that with coaches, for example, who recruit. A head coach recruits an assistant coach who's a high D, knowing, though, consciously that this person's not going to be around for long, but they're really going to kick this program along and we're going to progress quickly. And then I fully expect that they're going to go out and do their own thing. And that can be a really healthy outcome.
In all your years and all of your experience in sports and even in management in the fitness industry, do you find that one particular letter is more successful than another?
Yeah, it's a good question. In sport, no way, not a chance. We've seen multiple examples of Olympic gold medalists, world champions, PGA golf, professionals, you name it, 40 different sports. We have not seen a profile be more successful than another. They all achieve their success in different ways, though. How a golfer gets around the course if they're a high D is totally different to if they're a high S or a C. Mm-hmm. However, it can reward both of them equally if they do it well and if they're able to adapt at the right time. So we have seen adaptability is a key to success. In business, I think there are certain, certainly if you're going to be an accountant, there's a certain profile that you're more likely to be successful with. If you're going to be an engineer, it's a similar profile. If you're going to work in direct sales, IDs typically do extraordinarily well at that. But if you're going to work in a sales environment that requires you to manage a client over a longer period of time, then an IS profile is going to do better. If it's an environment where you have to work in the back end of sales to put together programs and really great, products, then having some C in your profile is going to be beneficial for that.
Get your pen ready now for Keep Me's Fit Bizpiration.
What are 3 tips for identifying the profile of someone we first meet?
Okay, number one thing I would look for is the way that they physically presented themselves. Are they smiling? Do they have energy in the way that they move? Because that determines the degree to which they might be a high I or a high D or an S or a C. The second one would be the other key behavior is how they communicate to you. Did they get to the point quickly? They're most likely to be a D. Did they ask you about how you are? They're more likely to be an S. Did they have a lot of energy with the way that they communicated? They're more likely to be an I. And if they didn't say much at all, but they sort of looked at you in a questioning style of way, and the question was around, okay, what's the program for today? And it was delivered in a very calm voice, they're more likely to be a C. And so the final one would be more around, just in your interactions and the pace at which they go about doing things that you suggest to them. People are really fast-paced and other people are really slower-paced.
Keep Me, smarter member retention. KeepMe.ai.
And now it's time to get back to our interview with Bo Hanson. Such a fun episode. Love the topic, Bo. Thank you so much for coming on to the Fitness Business Podcast.
It's a pleasure, Dory. And if there's any way that we can help, we're out here and we're able to do that. And a lot of our work is done remotely. So with all the US colleges, so we do stuff by video conference. So if anyone wants to partake in that, we can get things sorted and organized and help them out in this way.
Quickfire 5.
Drum roll, please, because it is time to reveal who our first guest of 2021 is going to be. Here is our guest's response to the Quickfire 5 questions. Our Quickfire 5 guest is Brent Darden, Interim President and CEO of URSA. Brent, are you ready to have some fun with our questions?
Yes, I am. Thanks, Dory.
Okay. First one is, who inspires you in life and why?
I have to change the question. The first one you asked me, from why or who to what. What would be my faith?
Okay. You are more than welcome to change. I like that. All right. Number 2, why do you do what you do?
This current role, I have to say, and I've told people this from the inception when I first agreed to step in as the interim CEO, that I've just felt this sense of being called to do it, really. And that transcends even, I think, the role here as a CEO, but just being in this industry, I've always felt it was my calling, more than a career or a job. It just felt so natural to me, like an extension of who I am and who I've been and who I want to be all together. So that would be my answer to that.
Okay. And maybe even a little bit of your answer from number 1 has to do with your answer of number 2.
Of course.
Calling. All right. Number 3, I can't wait to see how you answer it. And that is, if you were not doing what you were doing, what would you be doing?
Easy. I'd be a high school football coach in Texas.
Oh, Friday Night Lights. Perfect.
That's it. Exactly.
All right. Number 4, Brent, what is one book, podcast, blog, or Facebook group that you would recommend for our FBP family and why?
Leading from the Lion's Den, a book. I believe it's Daniel Pink. And because the content is about leading courageously, even in times of crisis, and leading with compassion for people. And I think those are both messages that I need to pay attention to, and I think everybody can benefit from.
Okay, I'll have to write that one down. Sounds pretty good. I just finished Fortitude by one of your congressmen, Dan Crenshaw.
Okay.
It was very, very good. It talks
Fortitude,
a lot about leading. Yeah, it talks a lot about leading and just kind of the culture today, and the little bit of patriotism. But yeah, kind of the same thing. Very nice. And finally, what will be one action item that the FBP family will take away from your interview?
I hope they take away just sort of the concept about how powerful and undeniable influence is in both directions, how we're influenced constantly and subconsciously all the time based on who we hang out with and the conversations we have, and then also how we're influencing others at all times, often when we're not aware that we're doing it, but people are picking up on it.
Okay, well, FBP family, make sure you tune in next week when Brent Darden captures our attention. So come on back. Thanks so much, Brent. I'll see you next week.
Hi everyone, Chantal here, and thank you for joining me for our final throwback episode for 2020. Now, this is when we take a little trip down memory lane and I share some of my all-time favorite episodes from the first 5 years of the show. This week's featured episode is such a great one. It's a great one to finish the year on. My special guest was Michael Piercy, the owner of the lab in Fairfield, New Jersey. The episode was called Impacting Your Community to Grow Your Fitness Business and Brand. And during the chat, you will learn about how community relationships can help establish your brand, steps to turn relationships into leads, and 3 ways to build relationships with your local government or community. I promise you this is a great episode, so make sure that you dive in if you haven't already. So all you need to do is click on the link in today's show notes or simply go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com and search for episode number 165. Happy listening and very best wishes for 2021.
If you would like to learn more about disc profiling and Bo Hanson, head on over to our show notes at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Next up, a message from our founding partner, Active Management.
Hi, FBP family. It's JT from Active Management, the founding partner of the Fitness Business Podcast. Thanks to the amazing technology at our fingertips, we can now work with clients all over the world. But right now, you can join the free online Active Management Facebook community. It's an amazing group of people just like you. Sure, I share weekly resources, but it's the power of the community that you will experience that will make this your go-to Facebook group. Remember, it's free, fun, and inspirational. Go to facebook.com/groups/Active Management Community.
What you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.